The reality is, I condemn vicious racial discrimination in this country, but the kind of vicious and systematic racial discrimination we see today is discrimination on the basis of race in a very different direction. You want to know what the best way is to end discrimination on the basis of race? Stop discriminating on the basis of race. Do that, and we're going to move this country forward. And I don't care whether you're black or white or brown or anything in between. That's how we're going to unite this country. You people have been responsible for dividing this country to a breaking point, creating a projection of national division. I meet people from the south side of Chicago to meetings like this one of every shade of melanin, multiple, from man to woman, doesn't make a difference, who are hungry for reviving unity in this country. And you, with your catechism that you try to get to politicians to whatever fake headline you're going to print on the basis of this conversation tomorrow, that's what's dividing this country to a breaking point. Shame on you. Look people in the eye and tell them what you've actually failed to tell them for the last 5 years. Own the accountability for your own failures as the media. That's how we rebuild trust in this country. And until then, I don't have a lot of patience to play the games.
What's going on, everyone? Talks with Kenny here today. And my God, look, Vivek's the future of the Republican Party. Yeah, at least he should be. He should be. But it seems like, the Republican Party doesn't want it to happen. But it's giving me Trump 2016 vibes again, right? And I'm holding, I always openly admit this, that I am a big Vivek fan. If it's up to me, Vivek is going to be the representative of 2024. But it's not up to me. Americans still want Trump. So what America wants, America allegedly gets. So I want to focus on that commentary that you saw in the beginning of him destroying this narrative that the media keeps trying to perpetrate is white supremacy is such a big problem in our country. Right? Even the stats that they show that white supremacy is the biggest issue. If you look at the rate of mass shootings, sorry, inconvenient truth here, it's mostly perpetrated by black people. Here's the stats right here. So why is all this? Why these reporters are asking Vivek about white supremacy? Well, Vivek yesterday, he got endorsed by Steve King, right? Today, I wholeheartedly endorse Vivek Ramaswamy for president. He is a wicked smart and is principled. Vivek knows and understands the Constitution and will refurbish the pillars of American exceptionalism. And that's something I always preach, that we have a culture. America has a culture, right? And letting migrants come in and not adapt to our culture, not conform to our culture, causes problems. And I'm not, remember, guys, I didn't get into politics until around 2016. So I don't know much about Steve King. But what I do hear so far about Steve King is apparently he was accused by liberal reporters, liberal media. Remember, the media journalists is biased as hell. They're overwhelmingly Democrats. So I don't trust what they say when they try to say something about somebody with a grain of salt. Here's a clip from CNN, kind of, encapsulating what Steve King supposedly represents in the Republican Party. Let's take a look.
I got to ask you about a curiosity also in this presidential race. Steve King has endorsed Vivek Ramaswamy. Last time he was seen, he was arguing that white supremacy was not so bad of a thing. Why is this happening?
I don't know. I mean, I wish he's like the bad penny that just won't go away. I had my issues with him, yes, in 2016 and what he did to Ben Carson in those caucuses. And I don't know what it doesn't do anything for Vivek. I mean, it really doesn't do anything except what Steve King is trying to do, because he understands the caucus process, which is wound DeSantis or Haley enough so that Trump can then squeak out a victory in Iowa and then move on to New Hampshire.
Do you really think there's a constituency for this that will actually benefit Vivek Ramaswamy?
A small one? Vivek is at 4 or 5% in the polls now. He's very off-putting. I've never gotten this boomlet. He's so annoying. I think that there's a reason that, he got up to 11. And then once he got on that debate stage and people saw more of him, they didn't like him. No, I mean, Steve King, obviously, he was elected as a congressman several times in Iowa. Right. Even though he was defeated in a primary last time around, he has some loyal voters. So I don't know. There's only 4 congressional districts in Iowa. So it's, it's not crazy to me as a strategy to try to pick up a few percentage points. But I'm not sure what the broader strategy is.
And I think Steve King takes away from Trump's voters. It's not like he's taking Nikki Haley voters or Ron DeSantis voters and moving them towards.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of overlap here between the Nikki Haley constituency and Steve King, but the speculation will end very soon when the voters start voting. Jason Osborne and Josh Barrow, thank you both.
What I told you, I don't know what it is. It's like non-millennials, non-Gen Zs. They find Vivek off-putting. off-putting because he's wicked smart. And you can't refute his points, so you just call him names. Oh, he's obnoxious. Like, look at the things they worry about. They're supposed to be a political channel, and they're talking about like superficial fluff stuff. Now, this argument that he's going to take from Trump voters, well, isn't that the point? Don't Trump have like 60% of the Republican Party voting for him? That's the demographic you're supposed to try to get from. And at the same breath, they're going to say, oh, Vivek is doing this to help Trump out. It's so funny. It's so funny what narratives it seems like they're reaching for straws here. Right? Here's a tweet that kind of encapsulates what Steve King represents. If you're not familiar with Steve King, he was like a Ron Paul kind of figure in the Republican Party. Important to remember that Trump and the American First Movement didn't come out of nowhere. Ron Paul's campaign and the Tea Party laid the groundwork. Steve King was probably more responsible than anyone else for making immigration such a potent issue for Trump to use. And that's what got him, Steve King, labeled a white supremacist, right? The Great Replacement Theory, all these labels they try to toss at us is because they don't want to make sense. They just want to sit here and give you superficial narratives about bull crap. So I'm going to give you some clips from Ramaswamy. This is Steve King saying he's speaking truth to fiction because apparently many of these reporters, they like to believe each other over actually believing objective reality and facts. Let's look at some clips.
I had a video playing the endorsement from the former representative Stephen King, but you didn't bring it up during your speech. Given that he lost his primary by a sizable margin after those racist remarks came to light, do you expect his endorsement can actually help you on January 15th?
I'm proud to have Steve King's endorsement, and I think that he has been wrongfully villainized by a media that not once has quoted the alleged racist remark or whatever it is that he made, and I just reject a lot of this mainstream media narrativing. But for my purposes, he and I have found common cause in issues that no other Republican candidate is speaking to. Against the CO2 pipeline, using eminent domain to seize the land of innocent farmers who don't want that built in their backyards. Somebody who actually, before it was cool, was calling for building the wall.
There you go.
Now something we accept needs to be normalized policy in this country. And so, yes, I'm proud to have his endorsement. And I've met so many Iowans on the ground, very different than the media, who understand that somebody actually stood to represent their interests, saying the things that other people weren't willing to say on issues ranging from the carbon capture pipeline to actually securing our borders, to actually reviving our national identity and even making English the national language of the United States, which I agree with.
I agree with that too, right? Like, I'm starting to get tired of the multiculturalism of, oh my God, we need to make it accept. Like, one thing about being a leader is you have to understand that no one is ever going to like, not everybody's going to like what you have to say, what you do, your decisions, your actions, because you have to think of the interests of your own people, America. Hey, what's best for interests of America? Best interest of America is not to help all these asylum seekers because they want a better life. That's not a good enough reason for the risk that they impose on our system. All you have to do is look at Chicago. I'm gonna keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. These are real problems. And whenever we try to bring up real problems that actually have some weight, actually is valid, they try to smear you as a white supremacist because, oh my God, you're racist against. No, I would have been racist against any migrant that come across that border because at the end of the day, they don't serve our best interest. This is charity work from America perspective, right? Because they're not contributing anything immediately to the system, but they're taking from it. We using tax dollars to transport them. We using tax dollars to house them. They're not paying into the system like that. We have to make special considerations for them to work, aka translate paper. That takes more resources for us to accommodate them. This is why I'm saying a lot of the world, the global, these migrants, they have no respect for America. And because a nationalist come out and say, hey, we need to respect this country as a sovereign country, they want to label him a white supremacist. Imagine that. Like only white people are Americans. That's saying that issue is a white supremacist talking point in of itself is a racist comment. Because Americans are not white, or not just white. America is multi-ethnic. So the claim that, when someone say, hey, this is in America's worst interest to have open borders, and you make it about a white people, it's racism. But, I digress. So here's another post that I want to iterate. The fact that New York Times say that Steve King said something a few years ago doesn't make it true. This is what I'm talking about when I say, hey, you got to watch these journalists. They have a big bias. I got to know Steve very well and trust him more than the MSM. P.S. One of his allegedly most racist comment was to build a wall on the southern border. Who that sound like? That sound like Trump. A lot of Latinos agree with Trump about the border because a lot of Latinos got here legally. They say, hey, I waited. My mom got here legally. She waited 5 years. No, actually, my mom waited longer than that. But on average, legal immigrants wait 5 years before they get permission to come into this country. And you got people skipping the line, and then you got Democrats here rewarding them with cash and prizes. Now they coming over the border. Apparently, they get health care on taxpayers' dollars. Bro, we don't have the resources to manage that much people. You're just attracting more people to come migrate over here. And then we asking for a policy to deter that, and you want to call it racist. So here's the clip. Here's a clip, and let's listen.
In 2019, Steve King said white nationalist, white supremacist.
According to who?
This was a direct
Yeah, according to the New York Times, which he has challenged the existence of whether he actually ever said that to the New York Times. They have not produced one recording of it. And if anybody has provided one other eyewitness account that verifies whatever it is, I'm just not one of these people that treats the New York Times as the Bible. I'm sorry, it's not. They've lied to us for years about everything from the pandemic that shut down this country for the last several years to each of the last two presidential elections, from tech-suppressed information in the last one to what happened with the federal police state that tried to infiltrate Donald Trump's campaign in 2016 and stopped him from governing. To you could just go all the way back to the Iraq War, to the truth about what happened with the basis for the bailouts. You can go back as far as you want to the front pages of the New York Times to tell you enough to be skeptical of what you read. I've gotten to know a man, and if what Steve King tells me versus what the front page of the New York Times tells me about what he actually said, I'll take Steve King's word over what some fake reporter has said without an iota of proof attached to it.
Yep, and that's what they rely on. They rely on this perception about, oh my God, this is what the real reality of things are. And it's so baffling to me how blatantly they get away with stuff like that. All right, they could be wrong so many times, but they're still considered authoritative sources, according to YouTube anyway. And I always find that baffling. I'm like, wow, your historical record don't speak for itself. This is why I don't believe climate change activists, because I'm like, yo, all your prediction models have been over exaggerated. You catastrophizing everything. Oh my God, everything's catastrophic. We must make change now. Like a used car salesman trying to rush you to make a deal and buy one of his bad cars. This is how climate change people come across to me anyway. That doesn't make me a climate change denier, but I'm just saying, hey, climate change ain't as bad as you pretend it to be. And that's all because of mainstream media. Because they're trying to get you to follow along a certain conclusion. They want you to have a certain perception, and they want their perception to be reality when that's not the case. Your perception must follow reality. Your perception does not create reality. So here's the last clip I got for you guys today. And we're going to go into, this is where Vivek really goes in on, I think a Washington Post reporter that asked the question in the beginning of this intro of this video. And let's end off the video on a good note. Let's take a look.
Attached to it.
Do you condemn white supremacy and white nationalism?
I mean, what this guy, who are you with? Which it's a Washington Post. All right, so potato, okay. Of course, I condemn any form of vicious racial discrimination in this country. But I think that the presumption of your question is fundamentally based on a falsehood that really is the main form of racial discrimination we see in this country today. Institutionalized racism is institutionalized racial discrimination that we see that doesn't come from somehow discriminating against people on the basis of some tenet of white supremacy. It's based on affirmative action. It's based on actually discriminating against people on the color of their skin in a way that's actually institutionalized today. Was there a point in our history, at points in our prior national history, where there have been vicious forms of...
And that's a good point you bring. Look, I always say it. Affirmative action is racism under new management. Right? Now the system used to discriminate against black people. Now is discriminating against for black people. But it's still wrong. Discrimination is discrimination. And all this justifies is continues discrimination into perpetuity. And I think these people like this fact is because it gives them something to do for years, right? These race hustlers, they wouldn't have a job if racism didn't exist, right? Isn't that a conflict of interest? Ibram X. Kennedy benefits if racism still exists. So what incentive does he have to actually give fruitful solutions to eliminate racism from America? He doesn't. His job is to create more of it, so he's more justified in writing his books, getting speaking engagements. He has a conflict of interest. Essentially, he's a grifter, but no one wants to call him a grifter. If you ask the black community, they think some think he's the best thing ever. And I'm like, yo, like, His whole job is to keep racism alive. That's what he gets paid millions of dollars to do. This is what these chief diversity officers and DEI people get paid to do. Keep racism alive. Keep rehashing what it is. Just like they it's not critical race theory. Critical race theory is social and emotional learning. Let's rephrase it. Unconscious bias. You don't know you're being racist. Right? These are the games these liberal reporters play. And they like to quote off each other like it's the truth, like it's the Bible, as Vivek already called out. Oh, New York Times said, okay, give me the actual quote. Right? And we saw this a little bit with Vivek too. Misquoting him, airlift quotes, say, oh, he said this. No, you're not. You shortened my whole sentence, bro. This is exactly what I said. And he tries to repeat it verbatim, and people still say, oh, he's denying what he said 2 minutes ago. It's so ridiculous, the games that these people play just to control up here. They don't want you to disseminate accurate information. They want you to disseminate information that will lend you towards their worldview. Liberal journalists believe everyone has a right to be a liberal and nothing else. Let's get back into the video.
Anti-black or anti-brown discrimination throughout this country after the Civil War and otherwise, yes. But you're looking in the rearview mirror and using that to pose a question today that is so far removed from what the reality is in America today. This myth of white supremacy, the closest you can find is Jussie Smollett, where you all were actually, speaking of trust in the media, jumping up and down over some false narrative. The best way you're able to find your best instance of white supremacy was a guy who was actually paying his other fellow people to be actually staging something that didn't happen. And so stop picking on this farce of some figment that exists at some infinitesimally small fringe of the American public today to open our eyes to the actual real threats that we face. And I think that it's frankly questions and framings like that that has caused the American public to lose all trust in the mainstream media, I'm sorry to say, for good reason.
You didn't say that you condemn white supremacy, though.
I'm not going to recite some catechism for you. I'm against vicious racial discrimination in this country. So I'm not.
Yeah, that means all women. Like this is the funny part. They want you to say an exact phrase. They want you to say what they want you to say, right? They actually these loaded questions to say, do you condemn white supremacy? As if it's the only supremacy that exists. Didn't that just happen? A black guy finished killing a bunch of people because he he hated white people. Apparently, there's a movie out. I forgot what it's called. American Fiction.
Oh, the perfect timing. This is Coraline.
Hello, dear. I'm Agnes.
Okay.
I'm happy you're not white. Me too.
Demonizing white people, isn't that a form of racial supremacy? But no, only white people. Diversity is hate, bro. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm not starting to notice. Diversity means anti-white, and I have a video coming up later today that's gonna go more into my thoughts about this. But it's ridiculous. Let's continue.
Not pledging allegiance to your new religion of modern wokeism, which absolutely fits the test. I'm not going to bend the knee to your religion. I'm sorry. I'm not asking you to bend the knee to mine, and I'm not going to bend the knee to yours. But do I condemn vicious racial discrimination? Yes, I do. Am I going to play your silly game of gotcha? No, I'm not. And frankly, this is why people have lost trust. And I know you're going to go print the headline tomorrow. I already know this. We already know how your game works. Vivek Ramaswamy refuses to condemn white supremacy because you asked a stupid question.
Damn. Guys, come on. We got to reward people who come out like this. He can't be third place. No, fourth place. Come on, guys. But hey, a lot of the Vivek people like me, we feel like something's in the air. I don't know what it is. Maybe January 15th, we're gonna get surprised. Who knows? Right? But damn, we need to reward people like that who can articulate the critique. Like it's craziness. Trump hit us in that emotion, but we need the philosophy too. Because without a vision of the future, without being a visionary, it's hard to get people inspired, right? Trump can inspire people because he's so charismatic, but the stuff Vivek lays out, that should be the party platform overall, like in a general perspective. And I think the best thing that people can take from the Vivek 2024 campaign is what can we use from, like, learn from him and broaden it out to the entire party so that can become more of our messaging. Hey, we need to unite. We need to call it down the middle. If it's racist for one person, it's racist for another. If it's discrimination for one person, it's discrimination for the other. Like, we need to get back to that. We need to get back to a unified we need to see each other as one nation, not multiple fractions fighting for power in a country. And that's how our culture's showing us today. This shows why multiculturalism doesn't really work. We can have multiple ethnicities, but we must have a shared culture if we want to have unity. That's the message I think Vivek is putting out, and I think that's something Republicans can push at a party committee level. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would like to hear you guys. Sorry, what you guys think about Vivek? What do you think about him slamming the Washington Post? What you guys thoughts about Stephen King? I'd like to hear him in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I really do appreciate you guys for watching to end the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.